All right, we are back discussing Chapter 6, Lesson 5, and looking at Example 3. This one states that Anna earns $1,500 monthly. Of that, $114.75 is withheld for Social Security and Medicare. What percent of Anna's earnings are withheld for Social Security and Medicare? So a lot of times, let's just talk about the problem first. Okay, what happens is you have a job and you get paid a monthly amount, which in this case would be $1,500 monthly. So then what happens is there's a certain percentage of money that is taken out of the monthly income to pay for certain things. So in this case, there's a percentage that's multiplied by the $1,500, which ends up being $114.75, which is taken out for Social Security. So like when you get older and you get past a certain age, like 60 or I forget what it is now, but probably late 60s. And Medicare is healthcare when you become older. It's kind of setting money aside for later when you get older and you can't work. So when you have paychecks, the government takes a certain percentage out of your paycheck to pay for those things where the government will assist you when you get older. And those are called for Social Security, which is just kind of like extra money in your pocket. It's not a whole lot of money, but at least it's something. And Medicare is kind of like the health insurance for people when they get older. So with that said, what we need to find what percent. Okay, so that's a thing we don't know. So we don't know what percent. So we're going to say let X equal the percent of earnings withheld. Okay, and then the other piece of important information is that there was $114.75 withheld for Social Security and Medicare. Okay, so we have to understand how these problems work. Okay, so we have the total amount. Okay, and then what happens is there is interest, percent. There is the percent withheld in the form of a decimal, withheld. So percent withheld in the form of a decimal. It's really close to the way, it's really just like sales tax, right? Because sales tax, you had the total amount, you multiplied it by the percentage in the form of the decimal, and then you ended up with the tax. Well, now we're not calling it tax. We are calling it the amount withheld. But it's really the same type of concept. So if you can understand this concept and how to set it up, then that's going to help you out. So our total amount is equal to $1,500. So we're going to substitute that in here. $1,500 multiplied by the percentage withheld in the form of a decimal, which is what we don't know. So we're going to call that X, equals the amount withheld, which we do know that. There was $114.75 withheld. So there's our equation. Now we just use algebra to get X by itself. X is not by itself. X is multiplied by 1,500, so we have to do the inverse operation of multiplication, which would be division. We have to divide both sides by 1,500. We have 1,500 divided by 1,500, what's going to end up being 1. They're going to cancel each other out. 1 times X is X. Now we have X by itself. And then we just need to figure out what 114.75 divided by 1,500 is. And for that one, I'm just going to go ahead and put it in our calculator. So there's certain problems which are a little bit more easy to use, and then there's other ones that are a little more complicated. So the ones that are easier in a way, I want you to go ahead and make sure that you use your brain and you practice that. But things that get a little bit more complicated, we're just going to go ahead and use our calculator for those ones. So 114.75 divided by 1,500. And what that gives us is 0.0765. Now, this is the percentage in the form of a decimal, okay? So in order to make this into the percentage, we need to change from a decimal to a percent, which means we just move the decimal 2 places to the right. Okay, so here's a decimal. We're going to move it 2 places to the right, 1, 2. So that means our percentage ends up being 7.65%. So what percent of Anna's earnings are withheld for Social Security and Medicare? 7.6% of Anna's earnings are withheld for Social Security and Medicare. Whoops, MENDI, Medicare. Okay, so boom, right there. There's the answer. Okay. All right, let's go on to check it out. Example 3. It says that BJ earns $2,500 monthly. Of that, $500 is withheld for income tax. What percent of BJ's earnings are withheld for income tax? So we've talked about sales tax. We've talked about, a percentage withheld for Social Security and Medicare. And now we're talking about income tax. They all have the same process. You have a total amount which is multiplied by some type of tax, or it's a percentage in the form of a decimal. And then that equals the amount withheld. The withheld amount. Okay? Or the tax or whatever, the sales tax. This is the main thing. Okay? So let's go ahead and look at the information. It says BJ earns $2,500 monthly. Okay, so that is the total amount, okay, right there. Of that, $500 is withheld for income tax. So $500 is withheld. That's going to be right here. That's the withheld amount. So the total amount is right there, okay? What percent of BJ's earnings are withheld for income tax? Now, the percent is the thing that we don't know. Okay, so that's going to be here. So let's go ahead and define our variable. Let's say let X equal the percent withheld for income tax. Okay, so that is what X is right here. Okay, now we're just going to substitute in the values. So the total amount is $2,500. 2,500 multiplied by X, or just 2,500X, equals the withheld amount, which is $500. Okay, I'm trying to determine what X is. I need to get X by itself. Right now, X is being multiplied by 2,500, so I need to do the inverse operation of multiplication, which would be, yes, it would be division. We're going to divide both sides by 2,500. Okay, 2,500 divided by 2,500 is 1. 1 times X is X. If I'm going to simplify this, I know that 100 goes into both of these. 100 goes into 500 5 times, and 100 goes into 2,500 25 times. So now I have 5 over 25. 5 goes into both of those. 5 goes into 5 one time. 5 goes into 25 5 times. So now I have 1/5. All right, so X is equal to 1/5. And I can figure out what percentage this is because it's really easy to make this 5 into 100. I just need to multiply this by 20. Do you guys remember that? So 5 times 20 is equal to 100 over 1 times 20, which is equal to 20. So that would be 20 over 100, which is 20%. So X equals 20 over 100. That's the same thing as 20%. So the amount of income tax withheld is 20%. So BJ's income tax, let's say BJ has 20% of her earnings withheld for income tax. Okay, and income tax, we didn't really talk about what income tax is. Income tax is something that you have to pay. So that's quite a bit, a large amount. That's $500. So you earn $25. Now you have to pay $500 of that to the government. Now that $500 goes to certain amount of that goes to pay for schools, it goes to pay for the police, it goes to pay for, you know, the prison systems and all those types of the firemen and all those types of services that we may use that, yeah. So anyways, there you go. That's how that one works. Good job, and we will see you next time.